The cool lights of Serenity Rest Center hummed their usual monotonous tune as I wiped down Mrs. Park's wheelchair, my hands moving on autopilot after 3 years of this routine. 26 years old, and sometimes I felt ancient, like I'd lived several lifetimes already. Sandana, Mrs. Park's trembling voice called out, her cloudy eyes finding mine with surprising clarity. Your boys are causing trouble again. I followed her gaze toward the lobby and sighed. Fan and Gon, my 5-year-old twin terrors, were supposed to be coloring quietly in the corner. Instead, they'd apparently found new prey. I'll handle it, Halmione, I promised, giving her hand a gentle squeeze before heading toward the commotion. What I didn't expect was the scene unfolding at the vending machine. A mountain of a man, easily 6'3", shoulders broad enough to block out the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, was kicking the machine with expensive-looking Italian leather shoes. His tailored black suit probably cost more than my monthly salary, and the sharp angles of his jaw were clenched in frustration. Dark hair fell partially over his forehead as he glared at the machine like it had personally offended his ancestors. And there were my boys, staring up at him with stars in their eyes. A Juicy looks angry, Fan whispered to his brother, though not quietly enough. Like a dragon, Gon agreed, nodding solemnly. The man's head snapped toward them, and I saw his expression shift from irritation to surprise. Up close, he was devastating, sharp cheekbones, a straight nose, and lips that looked both cruel and sensual. But it was his eyes that caught me off guard. Dark, intense, and carrying shadows that spoke of sleepless nights and heavy burdens. Kids shouldn't be here alone, he said, his voice a deep rumble that I felt in my chest. Where are your parents? Our Appa is working, Fan said cheerfully, completely unbothered by the man's intimidating presence. He takes care of old people. The drink is stuck, Gon observed, peering at the vending machine. You paid money? The man looked almost embarrassed. Yes. It took my money. I should have intervened then. Should have called my boys back and apologized for the disturbance. But something kept me rooted in place, watching this strange interaction unfold. We can help, Fan declared, and before anyone could stop them, both boys were examining the machine with the seriousness of tiny engineers. There, Gon pointed. Appa taught us this trick. Working together with the ease of children who'd shared a womb, they rocked the machine just slightly, and the stuck drink tumbled down with a satisfying thunk. The man stared at them, then at the recovered beverage, then back at the twins. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in that formidable exterior. Thank you, he said, and his voice had softened just a fraction. He pulled out his wallet. I can't cheat children. What do you want as a reward? That's when my heart dropped into my stomach. Fan and Gon exchanged one of their trademark conspiratorial looks, the kind that usually preceded disaster. They rubbed their chins in perfect synchronization, a habit they'd picked up from some cartoon character. Well, Fan began. You can be our Appa's husband, Gon finished. The man choked on the sip of water he'd just taken, spraying it everywhere. Several elderly residents looked over with interest. Gossip spread faster than wildfire in this place. What? His voice cracked, losing all that CEO composure. Our Appa is very pretty, Fan explained helpfully. And he's lonely. Fan. Gon. I finally found my voice, rushing forward, my face burning hotter than the summer sun. I am so sorry, sir. There, they don't understand what they're saying. That's when he looked at me. Really looked at me. I watched his eyes travel from my face down my body and back up again, and something heated and hungry flashed across his features before he masked it. My Omega instincts, usually quiet and well suppressed by my prescribed suppressants, suddenly stirred to life. There was something about his scent, cedar and something darker, richer, that made my skin prickle with awareness. Alpha, my hindbrain supplied helpfully. Powerful Alpha. You're their father? His voice had dropped an octave, and the way he was looking at me made me feel stripped bare. Yes, and I apologize for their behavior. They've been watching too many dramas. I grabbed both boys by their hands. We'll leave you to your... What's your name? The question stopped me cold. Song Sandon. I answered before I could think better of it. Sandon, he repeated, and the way my name sounded in his mouth should have been illegal. I'm Kong Du-yun. The name hit me like ice water. Kong Du-yun. The Kong Du-yun. The youngest CEO in South Korea's top 10 conglomerates, known for hostile takeovers and ruthless business practices. The man whose face occasionally graced financial magazines, always unsmiling, always intimidating. And he was staring at me like I was something he wanted to devour. Mr. Kong, I managed, my voice embarrassingly breathy. I really should get the boys back too. Do you work here? Yes, I'm a caregiver. His eyes gleamed with something I couldn't quite identify. Then we'll be seeing each other often. I'm here to visit my grandmother. And this center recently entered a partnership with my company. Of course he was. Because my life couldn't just be simple. That's wonderful, I stammered. The partnership, I mean. The center needs the support. Appa, Gon tugged at my sleeve. Is the handsome Ojusi going to be our new daddy? No, I practically yelped, wanting to disappear into the floor. But Du Yun was smiling now, a small, dangerous curve of lips that promised trouble. I wouldn't be opposed to getting to know you better, Sandon. The way he said my name, with that slight possessive edge, made my knees weak. This was bad. This was very, very bad. I hadn't been attracted to anyone since the boy's other father abandoned us when they were barely 6 months old, claiming he couldn't handle the pressure of Omega pregnancy and fatherhood. I'd built walls around my heart, focused entirely on my sons and my work. I didn't have time for romance, especially not with someone like Kang Du-yun, a man who could probably have anyone he wanted with a snap of his fingers. I have to get back to work, I said, already backing away. Sandon, he called, and I hated how much I liked hearing him say my name. Which resident is your primary charge? I should know, given my involvement with the center. Damn, he had me there. Mrs. Park, room 304, and Mr. Kim in 205, plus several others on rotation. He nodded slowly. My grandmother is Mrs. Kong in room 401. I'll be visiting regularly. Of course she was. Room 401 was on my rotation. I'll make sure she's comfortable, I managed. I'm counting on it. The weight of his gaze followed me as I herded the twins away, and I could feel his eyes on me the entire walk back to the resident area. My heart was hammering, my skin flushed, and I could feel slick beginning to gather between my thighs. A reaction I hadn't experienced in years. Appa is blushing, Fan observed gleefully. Like a tomato, Gon agreed. Both of you quiet. I hissed, but there was no real heat in it. As I settled back into checking Mrs. Park's vitals, trying to focus on anything other than the encounter, I couldn't shake the feeling that my carefully controlled life had just been thrown into chaos. And somewhere in the lobby, Kang Du-yun was probably still standing there, that dangerous smile on his face, already planning his next move. I was so screwed. 3 days passed before I saw Kang Du-yun again, and I'd almost convinced myself that the encounter had been some fevered dream brought on by exhaustion and too much instant ramen. Almost. Room 401 needs attention, my supervisor, Director Choi, announced during morning briefing. Mrs. Kang's grandson specifically requested you for her care rotation. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Me? Specifically. Apparently you made quite an impression. Director Choi's knowing smile made me want to sink through the floor. He's increased his donation by 30% and requested the funds go towards staff bonuses and facility improvements. The least we can do is honor his request for his grandmother's primary caregiver. Great. Just fantastic. The twins were at their makeshift daycare corner. Really just a supervised play area the center had set up after realizing several staff members were single parents. I checked on them once more before heading to the 4th floor, my heart doing uncomfortable acrobatics in my chest. Mrs. Kang's room was one of the nicer ones, spacious with large windows overlooking the garden. The elderly woman sat in her chair, silver hair neatly braided, her eyes distant but kind. Dementia had stolen many of her memories, but something about her presence remained regal. Good morning, Mrs. Kong, I said softly, entering with my cart. I'm Sandon. I'll be helping with your care today. She looked at me, and for a moment, clarity sparkled in her eyes. Such a pretty boy. Are you married? I laughed, used to the elderly resident's blunt questions. No, how many? Just me and my 2 sons. A shame. You should meet my grandson. He needs someone to soften those sharp edges. Before I could respond, a deep voice from the doorway made me jump. Talking about me, Halmiani? Du-yun stood there in another impossibly expensive suit, charcoal gray this time, fitted perfectly to his muscular frame. His hair was styled back, revealing the full intensity of his features, and those dark eyes locked onto me immediately. My suppressants chose that exact moment to fail me. A wave of Omega pheromones rippled out before I could stop it, and I watched Du-yun's nostrils flare, his pupils dilating. Sandon, he said, my name a low rumble. Taking good care of my grandmother, I hope? Of course, I managed, turning back to Mrs. Kong with what I hoped was professional composure. Mrs. Kong, your grandson is here. Do you know? Her face lit up with recognition. You came. The transformation was startling. The cold, ruthless CEO melted into someone gentler as he crossed to his grandmother, kneeling beside her chair to take her hands. I promised I'd visit more, didn't I? His voice was tender, nothing like the commanding tone I'd heard before. You work too much, Mrs. Kong scolded, patting his cheek. Just like your grandfather. It killed him young, you know. I know, Halmione. I busied myself with checking her medications, trying to give them privacy, but the room wasn't large enough to escape the intimacy of the moment, or Du Yun's overwhelming presence. This one, Mrs. Kong suddenly grabbed my wrist as I passed, her grip surprisingly strong. This pretty Omega. You should court him. I nearly dropped the pill organizer. Mrs. Kong. Halmione, Du Yun said, but there was amusement in his voice now. You can't just volunteer people for courtship. Why not? I'm old. I can say what I want. She looked between us with a shrewd expression that suggested her dementia wasn't quite as advanced in this moment. You both smell compatible. Don't think I can't tell. My nose still works. Heat flooded my face. In Omegaverse dynamics, scent compatibility was significant. It indicated potential for strong bonding, good offspring, stable pair dynamics. And if Mrs. Kong could smell it, that meant. She's right, Du Yun said quietly, his eyes never leaving mine. You smell like home. The words hit me like a physical force. Omegas were supposed to smell appealing to alphas, but home was different. That was imprinting language. That was dangerous territory. I should medications, I stammered, backing toward the door. Sandon. Du Yun stood, and the movement was predatory, graceful. Have dinner with me. I can't. The boys. Bring them. Mr. Kong. Du Yun, he corrected. And I'm not asking as a donor or as a CEO. I'm asking as a man who hasn't been able to stop thinking about you for 3 days. Mrs. Kong giggled like a schoolgirl. Oh, he's good. Du Yun, I didn't know you had it in you. Halmione, please, he muttered, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. One dinner. If you hate it, I'll never ask again. I should have said no. Should have maintained professional boundaries. Should have protected my heart and my children from the inevitable heartbreak of getting involved with someone like him. But then I remembered Fan and Gon's excited faces when they'd met him. Remembered how lonely my bed felt at night. Remembered that I was 26, not 60, and maybe I deserved something for myself too. Friday, I heard myself say. After my shift. 7 o'clock. His smile could have lit up Seoul. I'll pick you up. We'll meet you, I countered. Tell me where. He pulled out a business card, writing an address on the back. My private residence. I'll have my chef prepare something the boys will enjoy. That's too much. Sandon SSI, he interrupted gently. Let me do this. Please. The please did me in. This powerful man, saying please to me like I held something he desperately wanted. Okay, I whispered. Okay, he echoed, and the satisfaction in his voice was palpable. I finished Mrs. Kang's care in a daze, hyper-aware of Du Yun's eyes following my every movement. When I finally escaped, I found Director Choi waiting in the hallway with an expression that said she'd heard everything. Sandana, she said carefully. Be careful with that one. Men like Kong Du Yun don't do relationships. They do acquisitions. Her warning echoed in my mind as I collected the twins and headed home to our tiny apartment. But when I checked my phone later that night, there was a message from an unknown number. Thank you for saying yes. Sleep well, Sandon. DY. And despite all the warning bells, I fell asleep with a smile on my face. Friday arrived too quickly and not fast enough. I changed outfits 4 times before settling on simple black jeans and a soft blue sweater that Fan said made my eyes sparkly. The twins were vibrating with excitement, their little suits, hand-me-downs from a church donation, pressed and ready. Are we really going to the handsome Ajusi's house? Gon asked for the 100th time. Yes, and you will behave, I warned, though my heart wasn't in the scolding. The address Du Yun had given me led to Gangnam, to a high-rise that made my jaw drop. The doorman greeted us by name, because of course Du Yun had prepared for our arrival, and escorted us to a private elevator that opened directly into a penthouse. Holy shit, I breathed, then clapped my hand over my mouth. I mean, boys, don't repeat that. The space was massive, all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seoul skyline, modern minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my yearly salary, and original artwork on the walls. But what caught my attention was Du Yun himself, standing in the open kitchen in jeans and a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal corded forearms. He looked domestic, approachable, devastating. You came, he said, and the relief in his voice was genuine. We promised, Fan said, running forward with Gon hot on his heels. Whoa, your house is huge, like a palace. Gon agreed. Du Yun's smile was soft as he crouched to their level. Would you like a tour? Watching him with my boys did something to my heart. He was patient, answering their million questions, letting them explore while keeping them safe. When Gon nearly knocked over an expensive vase, Duyun simply moved it higher without a word of reproach. They're wonderful, he said quietly when the boys were distracted by the view. They're a handful, I corrected, but warmth bloomed in my chest. Dinner's almost ready. My chef prepared it earlier, but I wanted to plate it myself. He gestured to the kitchen. I hope you like Italian. The meal was perfect, homemade pasta with a sauce that melted on the tongue, garlic bread, and a caprese salad. The twins devoured their portions while Duyun and I talked, the conversation flowing easier than I'd expected. Why caregiving? He asked. You're clearly intelligent, capable. You could do anything. I watched the boys, their faces smeared with sauce, giggling at something only they understood. After their father left, I needed stability. Flexible hours. The center gave me that. And honestly, I love it. These elderly people, they have stories, wisdom. They deserve dignity and care in their final years. Something flickered in Duyun's eyes. My grandmother is all I have left. My parents died in a car accident when I was 16. She raised me, put me through university. The dementia. He paused, jaw tight. I'd give anything to have her back fully. Without thinking, I reached across the table, covering his hand with mine. You visit her. You ensure her care. That's love, Duyun. His fingers intertwined with mine, and the touch sent electricity up my arm. Say my name again. Duyun, I whispered. God, Sandon. His voice was rough. Do you have any idea what you do to me? The twins saved me from answering by demanding dessert, tiramisu that they approached with suspicious fascination. While they ate, Duyun led me to the balcony, the night air cool against my flushed skin. I need to be honest with you, he said, standing close enough that I could feel his body heat. I've never done this. Dating, courting. I've had arrangements, physical relationships, but nothing real. Why me then? The question escaped before I could stop it. You could have anyone. Models, actors, professionals without baggage. You think your sons are baggage. His voice sharpened. I think they're my world, but I'm realistic. Most people don't want to date a single parent. Then most people are fools. He cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. Your boys are part of you. And everything about you calls to something I didn't know I was missing. When I saw you that first day, it was like someone turned on lights in a house that had been dark for years. Duyun. My voice broke on his name. Let me court you properly. Let me show you that I'm serious. This is crazy. We barely know each other. Then let's get to know each other. His forehead touched mine, and I could smell his scent, cedar, bergamot, and something uniquely him. I'm not asking for forever tonight. Just for a chance. I should have been sensible. Should have thought about the complications, the differences in our worlds, the inevitable heartbreak. Instead, I tilted my face up and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, testing. But then Duyun groaned, one hand sliding into my hair while the other gripped my waist, pulling me flush against him. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, and I opened for him, gasping at the first real taste of an alpha I'd allowed in years. He kissed like he did everything, with intensity and focus, like I was the only thing in his universe that mattered. When his teeth caught my bottom lip, I whimpered, my omega instincts surging, wanting to submit, to offer, to surrender. Sandon, he growled against my mouth. If you keep making those sounds, I won't be able to stop. Then don't, I breathed and meant it. But reality crashed back in the form of Appa. The ice cream is melting, from inside. We broke apart, both breathing hard, my lips swollen and my body trembling. Duyun looked wrecked, his hair mussed from my fingers, his eyes dark with want. To be continued, he promised, stealing one more quick kiss before we returned to the twins. The rest of the evening passed in a warm haze. Duyun was attentive, asking the boys about their interests, promising to take them to an amusement park. When it was time to leave, he insisted on driving us home despite my protests. At my apartment door, shabby and small compared to his penthouse, he kissed me again, softer this time but no less devastating. Tomorrow, he said. Lunch. Just you, if you can arrange childcare. Duyun. I want to know everything about you, Sandon. Every dream, every fear, every hope. Give me that chance. How could I say no to that? Okay, I whispered. His smile was brilliant. Okay. As I tucked the twins into bed that night, Fan looked up at me with sleepy eyes. Appa, do you like the handsome Ajusi? Yes, I admitted. I really do. Good, Gon mumbled. He likes you too. We can tell. After they fell asleep, I stood at my window, looking out at the Seoul skyline and thinking about a penthouse somewhere in Gangnam where a lonely alpha was probably thinking about me too. Maybe, just maybe, this could work. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind. Duyun courted me with an intensity that left me breathless. Flowers delivered to the center, always in subtle arrangements that wouldn't embarrass me. Lunch dates where he'd leave board meetings just to spend an hour with me. Late-night phone calls where we'd talk until dawn crept through my windows. He integrated himself into my life with frightening ease. Saturday mornings became park trips with the twins, where this powerful CEO would push swings and build sandcastles without a hint of self-consciousness. He remembered Fan preferred dinosaurs and Gon loved space, showing up with books and toys that made their eyes light up. But it was the quiet moments that undid me. His hand finding mine under the table, the way he'd brush my hair back when he thought I wasn't paying attention, how he'd text me random thoughts throughout the day like thinking about you or you'd like this sunset. We hadn't slept together yet. Do-Yun was adamant about taking things slow, about doing this right, even though every kiss left us both aching and desperate. My heat was approaching, and the thought of spending it with him consumed me. Then everything went to hell on a Tuesday. I arrived at the center to find Director Choi waiting with a grim expression and another man, polished, handsome in a softer way than Do-Yun, with wire-rimmed glasses and an expensive watch. Then everything went to hell on a Tuesday. I arrived at the center to find Director Choi waiting with a grim expression and another man, polished, handsome in a softer way than Do-Yun, with wire-rimmed glasses and an expensive watch. Sandon, the stranger said, standing. I'm Dr. Han Min-jun. I need to speak with you about something urgent. My stomach dropped. Is something wrong with Mrs. Kong? No, nothing like that. He exchanged a glance with Director Choi. It's about Kong Do-Yun. The way he said Do-Yun's name, with familiarity and something like possessiveness, made my Omega instincts bristle. What about him? I asked carefully. I'm Do-Yun's friend. Have been for 15 years. I'm also. He paused. I'm also his former fiancé. The world tilted. Excuse me. It was an arrangement made by his grandmother before her dementia progressed, Min-jun continued, his voice gentle but firm. Our families are aligned business-wise. The engagement was called off a year ago, but recently, Mrs. Kong has been asking about wedding plans. In her lucid moments, she's been distressed that it hasn't happened. What does this have to do with me? But I already knew. Do-Yun is pursuing you, and I understand that. But you should know that if Mrs. Kang's condition worsens, if she becomes truly distressed about this, Do-Yun will choose duty. He always does. His grandmother is everything to him. The words hit like physical blows. Did Do-Yun send you? My voice came out cold, foreign to my own ears. God, no. He'd kill me if he knew I was here. Min-jun leaned forward. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to save you from inevitable heartbreak. Do-Yun and I may not be romantic, but we're compatible. Our marriage would be practical, beneficial for both families, and would give his grandmother peace. And what I can give him? I demanded. A struggling Omega with 2 kids and a tiny apartment? You think I don't know I'm not good enough for him? That's not what I. Get out. My hands were shaking. Both of you. Director Choi looked uncomfortable. Sandon, perhaps you should hear. I said get out. They left, and I stood there in the empty office, my world crumbling. Because Min-jun was right. I'd been living in a fantasy, pretending that someone like Kong Do-Yun would choose someone like me when reality came calling. I made it through my shift on autopilot, avoiding Mrs. Kang's room. When Do-Yun called at lunch, I let it go to voicemail. And the next call. And the next. By evening, he showed up at the center. Sandon. He cornered me in the supply room, his face etched with worry. What's wrong? Why aren't you answering? You should go back to Dr. Han, I said, not meeting his eyes. I'm sure he's waiting. Understanding dawned on his face, quickly followed by fury. Min-jun came here. That bastard. What did he tell you? The truth. I finally looked at him. That you were engaged? That your grandmother expects you to marry him? That I'm just a distraction. You are not a distraction. His voice was steel. Min-jun is a friend, nothing more. That engagement was never real, just business. I broke it off because I couldn't pretend anymore. But your grandmother will understand. He gripped my shoulders. Sandon, look at me. You and those boys, you're not a complication in my life. You're the point of it. Everything else is just noise. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. What happens when she has a lucid day and asks about the wedding? When she cries because you broke your promise? Can you really choose me over her peace? The hesitation in his eyes, just a fraction of a second, told me everything. That's what I thought, I whispered, pulling away. I can't do this, Do-Yun. I can't be the reason you hurt. And I can't let my boys get attached to someone who might have to leave. Sandon, please. I need space. Please respect that. I walked away, and he let me go. That hurt worst of all. The twins cried that night when I told them we wouldn't be seeing Do-Yun for a while. I held them and lied that everything would be okay, even as my own heart shattered. My heat hit 3 days later, violent and unexpected. I called in sick, arranged emergency childcare with a neighbor, and locked myself in my apartment to suffer through it alone. But at 2 a.m., delirious and aching, I made a mistake. I called him. Du-Yun, I sobbed into the phone. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called, Where are you? His voice was sharp, alert. Sandon, are you in heat? I'm fine, I just needed to hear your voice. I'm coming over. Right now. No, the boys are with your neighbor, I know. I've been keeping tabs to make sure you were safe. Send me your address. Now. I should have refused. Should have hung up. Instead, I sent him my location and waited for salvation or destruction to arrive at my door. Du-Yun arrived in 20 minutes, which meant he'd driven like a maniac through Seoul's streets. I heard him at the door, his voice tight with concern as he called my name. It's open. I managed, curled on my bed in nothing but a thin t-shirt, my skin on fire. He entered, and the scent of him, alpha mine, my mind screamed, hit me like a tidal wave. I watched him take in the sight of me, sweat-soaked, trembling, slick coating my thighs, my eyes glassy with need. Fuck, he breathed. Sandon, you should have called me sooner. Couldn't, I whimpered. We can't. He was beside me in an instant, cool hands on my burning skin. Do you want me to stay? Just to help you through this? I won't touch you, not unless you explicitly ask. I can just be here. My scent might help. It was already helping. His presence alone was dampening the worst of the heat's agony, my omega biology recognizing a compatible alpha and settling slightly. Stay, I begged. Please stay. He stripped down to his undershirt and boxers, practical, not sexual, and climbed onto the bed, pulling me against his chest. The skin-to-skin contact was like balm on burns, and I shuddered with relief. That's it, he murmured, his lips against my temple. I've got you. Du-Yun, I gasped as another wave hit. What do you need, sweetheart? Tell me. The endearment broke something in me. I need you. Please, I know we shouldn't, but... Sandon, look at me. He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. Even through the heat haze, I could see the intensity there. I want you. God, I've wanted you since the moment I saw you. But not like this. Not when you're vulnerable. Not when you might regret it after. I won't regret it, I insisted, grinding back against him, feeling his hardness against my ass. I want this. Want you. Please, Alpha, please. The title did something to him. His control visibly frayed, his hands tightening on my hips. You're going to kill me, he groaned. Sandon, I need explicit consent. Clear words. Can you give me that? Yes, I said clearly, heat-drunk but certain. Yes, Du-Yun, I want you inside me. I want your not. I want everything. He kissed me then, hard and claiming, and there was no more talking for a long time. His hands were everywhere, stripping away my shirt, mapping my body like he was memorizing it. When his fingers found my entrance, already wet and open from the heat, he groaned against my neck. So perfect, he muttered. So ready for me. He worked me open carefully despite my protests that I didn't need it, adding fingers until I was writhing, begging, desperate. Only then did he position himself, the thick head of his cock pressing against my hole. Last chance, he rasped. Tell me to stop. If you stop, I'll kill you, I threatened, and he laughed, the sound dark and delighted. He pushed in slowly, and the stretch was perfect, filling an emptiness I hadn't acknowledged. I was made for this, made for him, my body welcoming him home. Fuck, Sandon, he groaned when he was fully seated. You feel like heaven. Move, I demanded. Please, Alpha, move. He did, pulling almost all the way out before slamming back in, setting a punishing rhythm that had me seeing stars. His hands gripped my hips hard enough to bruise, and I loved it, loved every mark he was leaving on me. Mine, he growled, biting down on my shoulder. Say it. Say you're mine. Yours, I sobbed. Always yours, Du-Yun, please. His knot began to swell, catching on my rim with each thrust, and the pressure was exquisite torture. When it finally locked inside me, binding us together, I came with a scream that probably woke the neighbors. Du-Yun followed, his release flooding me with heat, his teeth sinking into my neck in a claiming bite that made my omega purr with satisfaction. We collapsed together, locked and panting, his arms around me like steel bands. I love you, he said into my hair. I know it's too soon, I know we have things to figure out, but I love you, Sandon. You and those boys, you're my family now. Tears streamed down my face. I love you too. God help me, I love you too. We stayed locked for 40 minutes, talking softly about everything. His fears about his grandmother, my insecurities about our different worlds, the future we both wanted but were afraid to reach for. I spoke to Mrs. Kang's doctors, he finally said. In her truly lucid moments, when she's most herself, she doesn't remember the engagement to Min Jun. That was from earlier dementia stages when she was grasping at familiar patterns. What she does remember, what she talks about when she's clear, is wanting me to be happy. To find love, not just duty. Hope bloomed painful and bright in my chest. Really? Really? And Min Jun? He sighed. He apologized. He was trying to protect me in his own misguided way, but he overstepped. He knows that now. So what do we do? I asked. We try. We fight for this. I'll handle the business side, the social expectations. You just keep being you. Keep loving me, even when I'm an idiot. I laughed, the sound watery but genuine. That's a pretty low bar. Good thing I'm overachieving then. My heat lasted 3 days, and Do-Yun stayed for all of it, caring for me, feeding me, making love to me with a tenderness that destroyed and remade me. When it finally broke, we emerged into a relationship that felt solid, real, tested by fire. But our challenges were far from over. 2 months later, I stood in Mrs. Kang's room, holding her hand as she drifted in and out of awareness. Do-Yun sat on her other side, his grandmother's frail fingers wrapped in his larger ones. Do-Yun, she said, her voice clear for the first time in weeks. The pretty Omega. You brought him. I'm here, Halmione, I said softly. She smiled, and her eyes were sharp, present. Good. You love my grandson. With everything I am, I answered honestly. And he loves you? Yes, Do-Yun said firmly. More than anything. Then what are you waiting for? She squeezed both our hands. Marry him, you fool. Give me great-grandchildren to spoil before I forget who they are. Do-Yun's laugh was choked with emotion. You already have 2, Halmione. Sandon's boys. They can't wait to meet you properly. Twins. Her face lit up. Oh, how wonderful. Bring them tomorrow. I want to see them. That night, Do-Yun took me and the boys to a private room in Seoul's most exclusive restaurant. The twins were in their element, chattering excitedly about meeting Grandma Kong, as they called her now. Boys, Do-Yun said, his voice nervous in a way I'd never heard. I need to ask you something important. They both looked up, faces smeared with dessert. Can I marry your Appa? The silence lasted exactly 2 seconds before they exploded with excitement, both trying to climb Do-Yun at once, shouting, Yes, yes, we told you to be his husband. Through the chaos, Do-Yun's eyes found mine. Sandon, what do you say? I pretended to think about it, just to watch him squirm. Well, you did take advice from 5-year-olds. Sandon, he warned, and I laughed. Yes. God, yes, Do-Yun. I'll marry you. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, perfect, and slid it onto my finger while the twins cheered and the restaurant staff pretended they weren't watching. The wedding happened 3 months later in a private ceremony. Mrs. Kong was there, lucid and beaming, as she watched her grandson marry the Omega caregiver. Fan and Gon served as ring bearers, taking their job with hilarious seriousness. Min Jun attended too, having truly become a friend, and gave a speech about how he'd never seen Do-Yun so happy. Our wedding night was spent in Do-Yun's penthouse, our penthouse now, with the boys asleep in their new rooms down the hall. Do-Yun made love to me slowly, reverently, his hands and mouth mapping every inch of my skin like he was memorizing scripture. My husband, he whispered against my lips. My Omega. My home. My Alpha, I breathed back. My love. My forever. When he nodded me that night, I felt the bond snap into place. Permanent, unbreakable, perfect. 6 months after the wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. Do-Yun cried when I told him, holding me so tight I could barely breathe, whispering thank yous against my skin like prayers. The twins were ecstatic about becoming big brothers. Mrs. Kong, in one of her clear moments, touched my still flat stomach and smiled. You brought my boy back to life, she told me. Gave him a reason to be more than just work and duty. Thank you, Sandon. She passed peacefully in her sleep 2 weeks later, surrounded by family, Do-Yun, me, the twins, and the promise of new life growing inside me. At her funeral, Do-Yun held my hand through the entire service. That night, he held me as we both grieved, finding comfort in each other, as we always would. Our daughter was born on a spring morning, with Do-Yun in the delivery room, holding my hand and whispering encouragement. We named her Hannah, after his grandmother's middle name. The twins adored their little sister, fighting over who got to hold her, who could make her laugh. Do-Yun was a natural father, splitting his CEO duties with diaper changes and midnight feedings without complaint. 5 years after that vending machine encounter, I stood in our home, a proper house now, with a yard where the kids could play, and watched through the window as Do-Yun chased all 3 children around, his laughter carrying on the wind. Fan and Gon were 10 now, Hannah, a precocious 5-year-old who had her father wrapped completely around her tiny finger. They were arguing about something, probably whose turn it was to pick the movie for family night. Arms wrapped around me from behind, and I leaned back into Do Yun's embrace. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured against my neck. "How grateful I am," I said honestly. "For broken vending machines and mischievous children and grandmothers who knew what we needed before we did. I'm grateful for a beautiful Omega who gave me a chance," he countered, turning me in his arms. "Who saw past the cold CEO to the lonely man underneath. Who gave me a family, a purpose, a home. I love you," I said, the words as easy now as breathing. "I love you too." He kissed me softly. "Forever, Sandon. You and me and our chaos of children." "Forever," I agreed. And as the kids burst through the door, all talking at once, demanding attention and snacks and answers to impossible questions, I knew that this messy, beautiful, unexpected life was everything I'd never known I wanted. Sometimes the best love stories start with broken vending machines and matchmaking 5-year-olds. Sometimes forever begins with a single moment of courage, of saying yes to possibility. And sometimes, the Omega who thinks he's not enough finds an Alpha who shows him he's everything. Our story wasn't perfect. We still fought about Do-Yun working too much, about my tendency to take on too many shifts at the center, which I still worked at part-time, because I loved it. We navigated playground politics and business dinners, and the challenges of blending different worlds. But every night, we came home to each other. Every morning, we woke up tangled together. And every day we chose us, over and over again. That was the real secret I'd learned. Love wasn't just the grand gestures or the perfect moments. It was the choice to stay, to fight, to build something together even when it was hard. And with Do-Yun's hand in mine, our children's laughter echoing through our home, I knew I'd keep making that choice for the rest of my life. 10 years later, Fan and Gon graduated high school as valedictorian and salutatorian respectively. Hannah was a